My name is Leroy LeGrand. My address is 2625 West Brazil Boulevard. I've lived there for 4 years since moving from 2516 West Brazil. Beacon Hill, I think, goes along with the name. Beacon, it's somewhat a guide or a standout neighborhood. It's a neighborhood where you can live a comfortable life, and one thing about it that you have to, there's certain standards that you have to abide by in that neighborhood. One thing, in light of it all, is you must keep your property up. You must be a good neighbor, a good citizen, and then we can't have radicalism in that neighborhood, because there were doctors, lawyers, teachers, and people of class. They were all black. They were all black. But one thing about it, they had class. And that's one thing that made the neighborhood stand out also, is because we had special people that were living there, and they were, I'd say, high-class people. They believe in you conducting yourself in the way of a neighbor, and not only that, keeping your property up, your appearance and everything. They believe in you taking care of yourself. And then not only that, they were very friendly. And one thing about fighting and arguing and shooting and all that sort of thing, that very seldom happened in that neighborhood, because it was a neighborhood where we all were concerned about each other. See? And then we had preachers there that lived there. There was a minister that lived there, was the pastor of AME, Methodist Church. His name was E. Woody Hall. I knew him. He was a fine preacher and a reverend brother. There was another minister that was there. His name was George Reed. These ministers have passed and gone. And then there was a lawyer that lived there, right down on Tracy. Her name was Ponce. And she had I think a restaurant down on a law office on 18th and Vine. And she also had a restaurant there. We have, there's Dr. Taft. There's Dr. Huff. There's Dr. Dixon. We had mostly doctors on that one street. That one street was a beacon light, I think, to the whole community. If you come down West Brazil, anytime you come down West Brazil in the Beacon Hill community, it was a street that was always upkept. They kept their property up. They kept it clean. And they were loving people. And thank God that they were all Christians. Okay. So is there anything else you want me to?
That was good. That was great.
All right. Well, we lived, I moved there in 1966. And my address at that time was 2625 West Brazil. No, it was 2526 West Brazil. And I had to move in that little house there, me and my wife. We were married, I think, about 6 months before we moved in there. And this house was the only one that was vacant at that time, and it was the doctor. No, it was a real estate broker that was named Dixon. Somewhat had the same name the doctor we had across the street. the doctor across the street was V.L. Dixon. This man, I don't know what his last name was, but it's Dixon. So he helped me get that house. And he was telling me, he says, if you move into this neighborhood, if I get you this house in this neighborhood, he said, listen, there's one thing for sure. So you must keep it up. If you don't keep it up, these people will make you move. So what? I said, a black neighborhood that's like that? He said, yes. Said all of these are doctors, lawyers, and teachers. They will not put up with you going down, living here and having an eyesore on your property. I said, oh, well, I rolled my sleeves up from then on, because I already was a worker. See, so I did my best until I moved away from there in 2016. I lived there ever since 1966 to 2016. That's ought to be 50 years. When I got older, see, I'm 83 years old, and when I got older, as long as my wife was living, I was able to take care of the property, and I got to the place where I think my knees give out on me, and I got hurt on the job. And I got to the place where I couldn't keep up the property. When I knew anything, the city inspectors was out there and were telling me, said, Mr. LeGrand, because I hadn't had the house scraped and everything on the outside, and I hadn't painted it, see. And when I got ill, I think I let it go for about a couple of weeks. When I knew anything, the inspectors from the city and all that was out there saying, you got to do something about your house, see. And so I said, all right. So I went on and hired a man to go in and paint it. So he got it painted and everything. And from then on, I didn't have no trouble because I figured like this, when I got to the place where I couldn't keep it up, then I was going to have to get another residence. But I still, after I decided to move and sell the house, I still wanted to live on West Purcell and Beacon Hill. I didn't want to move from Beacon Hill. So when I did sell the house, I moved down the street because they had told me that this building was vacant on 2526 West Purcell address. So I moved into that building, and I've been living there ever since. That's one of the things that I love about Beacon Hill. I've always had peace and quiet there. I've never had no one you had to worry about robbing and thieving and breaking in and all that sort of thing. And then, of course, there was the dope that came along. There were people that were coming up the hill on about 26 in Paseo, somewhere in that area. They were coming from down there on Vine. When that dope started coming in, then they started somewhat trying to migrate and get up into West Paseo. When they come so far on West Paseo, when they look up and look down the streets, they turn around and go back down on Vine, because they know we wasn't tolerating it. That's one of the reasons why I love Beacon Hill. It's a profitable place to live. It's a place where that you can really live a good life. And if you want to be somebody, they demand that you be somebody. That's good. I think it's one of the best things I can say about Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill is a good place to live. Instead of Beacon Hill, in other words, it has its guiding light. Its guiding light would be keep up your property. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. See? Be good and be kind to others. See? As you would have them do to you. That's Beacon Hill. That's the way Beacon Hill shines. And that, especially on the West Paseo. All right. Walt Disney started his business in the Beacon Hill district. I think, let me see, it's 31st and Forest. If you notice, there's a building right there on the corner. That's where he first started his business. It turned out to be, it's a boomerang. It turned out to be a boomerang in business, really, because Walt Disney is still going on. His business is still going on, still growing. There was a whole lot of other businesses there was there. There were the Dixons. He had what you call wings and things down on 18th Street, right behind what you call Bryant's Barbecue. He had a business going on right there behind Bryant's Barbecue. And in fact, they own lots of that property across the street, where they have the water department and all those, and the water and gas, I think. The department is right there on 18th and Prospect. In fact, I think the Dixons own some of that property. But anyway, things in Beacon Hill has been a blessing to me, the way I live there, and the way that they created an environment of safety around that neighborhood. And then there's other places that called Jack's Supermarket. He was located right there at 27th and Truth. I think it was on the south west corner. Then there was the Byron Hotel. There was on the northwest corner. That was a place that somewhat a little radical, but it was on the other side of the street. It wasn't considered as being in Beacon Hill. Well, what made it radical is there was gambling, and sometimes I think there was fighting there, and there was trouble going on there. See, but I think what they did eventually, they tore the hotel down, got rid of it, and of course, you know, there's a man named Mac Feeders. He lived right down the street from me. He was instrumental in bringing Beacon Hill Community Center into the Beacon Hill, and then Mac Feeders was very instrumental in trying to keep that neighborhood in a beautiful condition. And I miss him. But we all got to go. And of course, his mother's still living in, I think, a lot of her and that family. They were a family that also believed in trying to keep up their property. They owned lots of property there in Beacon Hill, and then not only did they own it, they kept it up. And I praise them for that. All right, is there anything else? Oh, yes. While I was there, I had a German Shepherd. His name was Tanker, and he's a very protective dog. He'd watch over the children and everything. Wouldn't bite them or anything. But anybody come around, he would get after them. So I had to keep him mostly in the basement. And when I did, I had to take him out and walk him and go on. But one time, I think what happened was we got onto a whole bunch of peaches, you know. And I had an inkling of making peach brandy. My mother taught me how to make it some time ago. And we got, I think what happened, we got hold of these peaches, and we went there, and my wife, she peeled them and then went on and I've taken the hulls and made the peach brandy out of it. And I let it work for a little while in the basement and going on. And I forgot about my dog, see? And when it set up and it began to work and go on and began to make the alcohol, what happened was I'd taken and got a rag and a towel and put all the hulls in and squeezed the juice out into the crock. And what happened, I forgot and left the towel with the pulp in the hulls, in other words, the peach hulls in there. See, that I'd squeezed the juice out of. I left it in there, and I forgot about my dog, and I forgot I had left it down there because my wife had called me, and I went upstairs to see what it was, and she called me, and what did she call me? Told me something about the kids, and my daughter was late getting home from school or something, and I went up there to check about it, and we got to talking, and I forgot I left it down there in the basement. When I know anything, I heard somebody going, "Rrr, rrr." I said, what in the world going on here? And I said, that one of the kids, and I said, everybody's up here, Daddy. And my wife said, everybody's up here. I said, well, I wonder what's going on. And then it went off again. "Rrr, rrr." And I said, what's the happening? She says, coming from the basement. So I took it and opened the door and looked down there, and my dog was laying down on the floor, and his eyes was red as fire, and he was struggling, trying to get up, you know what I mean? And I said, wonder what's going on here? And I went down and I said, oh Lord, I said, I done killed my dog. And I looked over there and I hit and ate all the pup was in there, and the dog done got drunk. The dog got drunk. The dog got drunk, and he was struggling trying to get up my wife. My wife come in, said, oh, you done killed Tanker. I said, Lord, please don't let him die. So I went down and I gave him a dose of castor oil. That got him, see. But anyway, from then on, anything I left, he would never eat it until we gave it to him. He stopped eating stuff. If he seen a bone on the floor, he'd eat it, see. But from then on, anything that we put out, he would never go into nothing and eat it. I don't care if it's food. If we set it out there, unless we give it to him, he wouldn't eat it. That's one of the things that really was a spectacle in my life. But anyway, we had fun there, and we lived together, and we really loved each other. Of course, my wife, she had two kids. She had a boy, Leroy LeGrand Jr., and then we had Arlene Rochelle LeGrand, and then we had Angela Denise LeGrand. See, I have 3 siblings by Naoma, and she passed away March 21st, 1990, in that neighborhood. I want to tell you that I really miss her, but one thing about it, we lived a good life right there, 50 years together. And when she passed, we had lived 30 years together. And Beacon Hill was a fine place to live. In other words, just like they said, that we were concerned about one another. That we were concerned, and whatever you had, you would share it with your neighbors. I remember one time that Dr. Taft, his wife, she owned some property that was over on 24th and Bell, and I think she had cancer real bad, but she called me over and told me, said, listen, Reverend, said, you come over here. I went over to her house, and she said, well, says, I know I'm getting ready to go, so the doctor said I had cancer. And I said, oh, you don't say. And I immediately started praying for him. And she said, listen, says, before I go, say, I got something for you. And I said, what is that, Miss Tad? She said, I have a piece of property over on 24th and Bell. Says, and here is the title and everything for it. I said, what you going? She said, yes, I'm going to give it to you. Well, I had that piece of property for, I think about 6, 7 years. I sold it. But anyway, they were just like that. If they had something and they figured that you needed it, they would give it to you. That's right. They would give, and your children, your children went around the doctors or anything like that. They always give them candy and stuff like that. Hey, come on over. See, and if some of them had pool halls or whatever it was, pool tables, they let them play and all that stuff. Woody Hall, he's minister, I ain't gonna tell on him, but that guy, he was something else. That Woody Hall, he was something. I go over to the partners and go down there, that cat be down there, he had a great big bar, all kind of whiskey. But I didn't drink that much then, but I did drink a little bit. And he come on and have a shot with preacher. Well, I had a shot every now and then. But anyway, all those people, I love them. In fact, I think about them and think about the heritage that they've left there in that neighborhood. And how that they left that heritage there for us, for those of us young people that's following. Learn how to take care of your things, take care of your property, take care of yourself. See, when they look at you, they look you up and down. If you wasn't clean and nothing like that, they'd somewhat tell you, say, hey, you go and change clothes, take you a good bath, boy. You know, yeah, because that's what those doctors would do. You know, all the time they believe in their cleansing. See, and then of course, a minister of the gospel, I had to say, cleanliness is godliness. You know, and sometimes, you know what's wrong with most of the air conditioners and stuff that breaks down? You see, people think that they break down because sometimes that they just fail. But the greatest fault in air conditioning and refrigeration is dirt. That's what it is. If you don't keep it clean, you burn it out. It gets clogged all up with dirt.
So is it just as simple as replacing the filter?
Replacing the filter, but you also got to go out and you got to clean the condenser. You got to clean that condenser. All that lint will build up on the condenser. What that will do, that will block what you call Latin heat diffusion. Latin heat diffusion comes out of the condenser. What actually happens in an air conditioner is that you move the heat from one place to the other. That's actually what you're doing. See, when you talk about air conditioning, you're removing the heat from one place to the other. Now, if the cause in the evaporator is clogged all up, you see, with ice, you see, you ain't gonna get nothing because here's what? The fan cannot blow through the solid ice. See, and it has to be down a certain temperature where the ice will be there and the fan can blow through the ice, then that cools everything down and picks up all the heat in that refrigerator and carry it right on out to the condenser that's on the back of the refrigerator. And when that thing gets real hot back there, it's doing its work. See? It's doing its work. But when you feel back there, it's just barely warm, it's not working on the inside. the new buildings and the new housing that's coming up in Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill has taken on a new face. All the old dilapidated buildings and stuff that we used to have around that area, 24th and Forest and all down in there, all of those places were what had been taken down, see, and destroyed, see, and all now from 23rd and Truth back to 27th Street. We have new buildings and new housing going all up. Now that it has really changed Beacon Hill tremendously. When you talk about becoming more modern and more of a beacon for people to live. In other words, it's right downtown almost. You can go to 23rd Street and you can see the whole city downtown area. And those houses that they're building right up on that hill, oh, they make it look, it's a beautiful place now. See, it really brought a change there. And that's what we look for. And one thing that we have to do, I have to commend, what's his name? Emmanuel Cleaver III. He brought all of that modernization into that neighborhood. And I have to commend him because he is a fine congressman. If there ever was one, I tell you, that's a fine brother minister. He's a minister, and not only that, he does his job. I tell the world he does his job. He's trying to take care of Kansas City. Kansas City ought to love that man, because he really put his hand in the pocket of the United States, and he brings it here to Kansas City, and not only that, anywhere else that he can help, he help them, but Kansas City is his home. I think about the Chiefs, yeah. I say I wore away my red shirt because I think about Mahomes and how they have really turned Kansas City around. That's a new thing, really. That has turned Kansas City around. I mean, that we hadn't had what? A Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl in what, 50 years. And I'm thankful for that, you know. I love him, and I love the whole team because they did a good job. They really performed. And they can do it again. See, they can do it again. That's one thing about it, they can do it again. They can keep doing it. See? Because let me tell you, if God be for you, who can be against you? Yeah. Oh, I tell you, all right. Oh, you want to tell you something about Christianity, my life? Well, I've been a minister for 44 years. I was one of the associate ministers of Macedonia Baptist Church. I pastored Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Fort Scott, Kansas for 3 years. At which time the commuting and working on construction at the same time was too much for me, and I had to come back to Kansas City. And then I had another church at 27th and Bell, Christian Travelers Missionary Baptist Church. I pastored that for 8 years. After which I went on back to Macedonia. The congregation, they wanted to sell the building, so they sold it. And I went on back to, we sold it, and they split the money up. I didn't put it in my pocket. They all split it up and went on to various churches, but I went back to my church. Now I'm at home. I retired some 6, 7 years ago. But anyway, I'm still a minister. I found out really you can't hardly retire as being a pastor, you know. So another thing I would like to leave with you. I'd like to leave with the young people, you know. It's one thing, it's one scripture that if you pay attention to it and if you read it, it will teach you how to get through life and live a godly life. And that scripture is the first number of the Psalms. And it goes like this. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in its season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Therefore the ungodly are not so, but are like the shaft which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. That's the entire number of the psalm. Now if you read that and listen at it, what it tells you don't be guided by sinful people. And then don't sit in the seat of the scornful. What does scornful do? The scornful is people that talk about you, low rate you. You know what I mean? Bring you down some way with their mouth. The scornful people, you know, walk not in the counsel of the ungodly. When you walk in the counsel of the ungodly, you bring down death, suffering, and many other things. And when you know, because the ungodly people don't know the Lord. They don't know Him, and they're not concerned about it. See, and one scripture says they stay up late at night to shed innocent blood. What do I mean by that? What do they mean by those scriptures mean by that? It means this: shooting and killing one another. It's already there. People are just they doing what the Bible said that they do. They kill one another. If we as a people gonna ever be anything, we got to start to caring about each other. We tell other people, we tell our Caucasian brothers that we wanna live, we wanna be accepted and everything, and then we go out and get a gun and haul off, bang, and shoot each other. What? What kind of love does that show them? What kind of love, what kind of concern for each other do that show them? We got to start with ourselves anytime. Start with ourselves. Our own families. Many times, kids go out and get dead, get killed. The mother don't know where he is. The father don't know where he is. He's laying out there in the pool of blood. And she got shot. Following sinful people. Sinful people is destroying, It's destroying each other. We are destroying each other. See? The dope, the drugs. See? You know one thing? I had a guy one time. His name was Tootie. And I didn't know he was on this stuff. But we used to go up to my apartment, his girlfriend and mine. We used to sit down and we'd have a half case of beer and a fifth of whiskey. We'd drink it and get high, we'd have a good time. He'd go back to his apartment, I'd go back to mine. So one day, I'm sitting up there, me and a girlfriend, we talking and going on and holding hands. And Tootie comes in with his lady and says, "Hey man," says, "I got some good stuff over at the house." Good stuff. I said, "What? What is this?" He said, "Wait, I'll go get it. I'll bring it back." He went over, he goes over and get a black pouch and he come back and it's full of marijuana. Well, I'm Arkansas boy. I'm green behind the ear. I don't know nothing about this stuff. He comes over, you know, and brings over there and get him a little old cigarette paper and roll that thing up and pinches it off, you know, and then put it in his mouth and light it, and gets right in my face. And when he gets right in my face, like he's gonna kiss me, I'm looking at it, I'm looking at his mouth, you know, and then he sucks that thing in, sucks that smoke in, and he kept on sucking it in. Then all of a sudden he said, what's like that, see? And his lips, his jaws going out and everything, and he blows it in my face. Man, I was overtaken with that. I ran back in my chair. I said, man, if you don't get away from here with that horse shit, you better. He said, what? I said, horse shit. He said, man, this is marijuana. I said, I don't care what kind of one it is. Man, I said, I'm not going to put that in my body. See? He looked at me and said, man, I said, you ain't hip as I thought you. I said, man, I don't want to get hip. You look like that. See? So eventually, to make a long story short, this same man goes out, and I figured from that he was dealing with drugs. He goes out, look, and goes down on 12th and Paseo. And they had a restaurant there, something like a little coffee shop. He goes in there, that was about a month later, and when I know anything on the radio, somebody said, well, so there's a young man named Tootie. He stumbled out on the sidewalk and fell dead. I said, man, no wonder that boy ain't been around. I said, what in the world? And when they found out what happened, somebody gave him an overdose of, what was it? Well, I don't know. Huh?
Heroin?
Heck, man, you got to admit, heroin. See, me being from Arkansas, I ain't never heard nothing like that. See, I ain't never heard nothing like that. See, and not only that, my mother always told me, said, listen, boy, so don't let nobody put nothing in your mouth that's not eatable or drinkable. And after he blowed that smoke in my face, I said, man, hey, I said, whatever you come up with, you carry it on by yourself. I said, now I'll stick with drinking and every now and then, and let me tell you one thing. That drinking got me whooped one night. I went down to, James Brown was in town. And they went down, man, and I was dancing and going on, having a good time, and I had a half pint, and I drank that, got high, and then, you know, the last thing I remember, James Brown was saying, please don't go. He started, please, 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 please. Then I walked out of the place. When I got out on the street, I didn't know anything after that. Somebody come up behind me, bust me upside the head, almost broke my ribs, taking my money, kicked me and left me laying out in the street, right off of Man Street. And you know what, one thing? My mother was dead and gone then. But I look back in my life, and I thank God for her. My father was blind, and I used to have to lead him around. But anyway, after they left me like that, and I went to the hospital. And I got out and everything. I remember when I got well, started walking around and doing good, and went on back to work. One night there was a place right there called, they had a little pig stew place right there at 12th and Tracy. I was walking down there, The man said, if you come back here tonight and don't pay your rent, says, I'm gonna put you out. It was in the snow. I heard my mother's voice, seemingly from the grave. She told me, said, listen, son, I told you, said it would be day that I would not be with you. And whenever you get in trouble, she said, and or you can't find nobody to help you. She said, if you call on Jesus, say he will answer your prayer. And I said, Mama, I said, please say something else. That's all she said to me. And then from that point on, I walked on down on 12th Street and got right there at 12th and Truth. Something said, look down. I looked down on the ground and I found a wallet. I searched, it looked like it was empty. Didn't find no identification. But then something said, open the pouch up, and I opened it up, and there was a gold ring. And I said, a gold ring? I said, I need money to pay this man his rent. So when I got to thinking, one man said, tell the man you would take it to the pawn shop in the morning and then bring him his rent. So I did that. And I walked away reveling, and I found out to myself that God is real. I found to myself that if you call him, he'll answer. And I found to myself that while he's still speaking, he's right there. And he told his disciples, he told them, say, you go in all of the world and teach them whatsoever I command you, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. And lo, I'll be with you even until the end of the ages. That's why sometimes, my brother, that's why sometimes I have to share the Lord, especially with these young folk. Stop your killing. Stop your lying. Stop your fighting. Give your life to the Lord while you got time. You got time to do all these other things and to destroy yourself. But give yourself to the Lord that you might be saved and you have a life on the other side that's waiting for you. I heard what John say, you believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I'll go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I'll come again to receive you unto myself. That's what the scripture says. I didn't say that.
How long have you been a minister? How long have you been a pastor?
44 years.
44 years?
Yeah.
Did you have a church in this area?
Oh, I had a church at 27th and Bell there one time. And I pastored that church for 8 years, but I pastored Fort Scott Shallow Missionary Baptist Church 3 years, and I had to rebuild that church down there because one of the deacons had set it on fire.
Fort Scott, the land of Gordon Parks.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. I pastored down there. I thank God for that ministry.
So that's a long way from Vivian's down here to Fort Scott.
Yeah, that's almost, well, it's 212 miles round trip. See? I had to do that every Sunday.
Right.
I do that every Sunday. And take my family down there. And finally, trip got to the place where it was so much for me because I was working for J. Dunn Construction Company. They had so much demand, I had to put that pastor down and pastor up here. But thank God he brought me through all of that. And I'm supposed to be retired, see, but preachers never retire. You can't retire. Somebody gonna call you for something.